Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's program. I am Tang Jingyuan. The Iranian theocratic regime is collapsing under the relentless barrage of President Trump's epic fury. As the authoritarian alliance crumbles one by one, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, finds itself powerless, resorting only to empty rhetoric and the shrill howls of its wolf warriors, while refraining from any tangible support actions. Recent media reports have exposed an arms deal between the CCP and Iran involving the sale of China's most advanced supersonic anti-ship missiles to Iran. However, following Trump's assault and the elimination of Khamenei, the CCP has categorically denied the transaction. This cowardly behavior of acting without owning up has earned CCP leader Xi Jinping the new moniker of the most spineless gang boss. What the CCP fears most is the loss of its grip on power, and this is precisely unfolding on Iranian soil. The CCP's veteran wolf warrior, Wang Yi, has once again stepped forward, vehemently declaring that regime change is unacceptable. Meanwhile, the US President Trump, who orchestrated this regime change in Iran, is set to visit Beijing at the end of March. This leaves Xi Jinping with a mix of emotions, making it difficult for him to maintain a mindset of equality when welcoming Trump on level terms. In his mind, the recurring thought must be, who will Trump target next for elimination, and could it be me? Thus, Trump's strikes have not only taken out Khamenei and a cadre of Iranian top officials, but have also shattered Xi's calculations of exploiting vulnerabilities in Trump. The CCP's two sessions this year are caught in the vice between Iran's upheaval and Trump's impending visit, inevitably stirring in Xi a sense of sorrow akin to the fox grieving for the dead rabbit over Khamenei's fate. Hosting at home the US president who strikes fear into dictators worldwide truly signals an omen of impending doom. If you're following this topic, please subscribe, turn on the bell for all notifications, and don't miss future episodes. According to foreign media reports, Iran's agreement to procure CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles from China is nearing completion. This represents one of the most advanced weapon systems China has provided to Iran in recent years. Following the US assault on Iran on March 2nd, CCP Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning flatly denied the claims, stating that the relevant reports are untrue and constitute maliciously linked hype. Reuters recently reported, citing 6 informed sources, that Iran is planning to acquire the CM-302, the export version of the YJ-12 Eagle Strike, supersonic anti-ship missiles from China, with the deal close to finalization, though delivery timelines remain unsettled. Additionally, a Bloomberg report on March 2nd indicated that reports of China providing air defense systems to Iran have proliferated in recent months, along with rumors that China is shipping missile propellant raw materials to Iran. Iran's retaliatory efforts primarily rely on swarms of small, one-way attack drones known as the Shahed 136, where Chinese dual-use technology support could be critical. Essentially, this drone functions as a rudimentary cruise missile. The Pentagon warned in a report last year that China's defense ties with Iran's center on Chinese firms selling dual-use components to Iran's ballistic missile and drone programs. In the face of large-scale airstrikes by the US and Israel against Iran, resulting in the deaths of multiple Iranian leaders, the CCP, watching its authoritarian Axis ally under attack, has limited itself to verbal condemnations, while adamantly denying any US military aid to Iran. Regarding the CCP's performance, Taiwanese writer Wang Hao posted on Facebook, "In early 2026, global geopolitics is undergoing a cold reshuffle. From Venezuela to Iran, Xi Jinping's painstakingly built authoritarian alliance is successively collapsing under the absolute force of US military power. This is not merely a military defeat, but a strategic confiscation of Beijing's bargaining chip diplomacy. Facts prove that Xi Jinping is a gang leader who only issues empty promises, shrinks in key moments, and lacks the most accountability." Wang Hao noted, "Over the past few years, Beijing has treated dictators like Assad, Maduro, and Khamenei as pawns against the democratic camp, supplying advanced weapons, sharing Beidou satellite intelligence, and even packaging them as all-weather strategic partners. However, when US forces took out Maduro in 140 minutes, and when Israel and the US launched precision strikes crippling Iran's theocratic regime, Beijing's so-called strategic partnerships instantly failed." Wang Hao pointed out, Xi Jinping's touted new security initiative appears impotent in protecting allies. When these dictators take bullets for Beijing's strategic interests, Xi can only watch helplessly ahead of the Trump-Xi meeting at the end of March as his negotiating chips are physically eliminated. The Taiwanese unification faction's fantasy of Trump and Xi using Taiwan as a grand bargain chip has vanished in the smoke of the Persian Gulf. Wang Hao further stated, Trump has used missiles to tell Xi Jinping core interests are not for trading, only reality matters. Those dictators who trusted Xi and called him brother ultimately discover they were merely sacrificial pawns pushed to the front by the gang boss. With energy lifelines severed and air defense networks torn apart, Xi's silence and incompetence declare the complete bankruptcy of this dark supply chain. What kind of boss is a gang leader who can't protect his underlings? President Trump has publicly stated that the military action against Iran aims to overthrow the current theocratic regime in Iran, achieving regime change. Trump noted, for 47 years the Iranian regime has chanted death to America, and we will no longer tolerate it. What the CCP fears most is losing power, and Trump's strike on Iran has left the bloated bureaucrats in Zhongnanhai restless like ants on a hot pan. The biggest headache is that Trump is due in Beijing at the end of March, demanding that Xi host the grandest welcome ceremony in Chinese history. Under the might of Trump's epic fury in decapitating Khamenei, the CCP senses doom approaching, wondering if that epic fury might one day descend upon them. A Bloomberg analysis on March 2nd noted that US President Trump is set to visit Beijing starting March 31st, but CCP leader Xi Jinping's mood is likely highly complex, making it hard to maintain composure in hosting Trump. In Xi's mind, it's difficult to dispel the thought, who will Trump want to eliminate next, and will I lose another old friend? Xu Chen, a partner at the Asia Group strategy consulting firm, pointed out, how could Xi Jinping possibly feel that everything is normal now and prepare to welcome Trump's visit in a pleasant mood? CCP Foreign Minister Wang Yi has more bluntly expressed the CCP's fears. Publicly assassinating the leader of a sovereign nation and pushing for regime change is unacceptable. Wang Yi's shrill wolf warrior stance stands out as particularly jarring at a time when the Trump-Xi meeting schedule is set and US-China officials are working to maintain bilateral relations. The US demonstration of strength and its style of following through on words has left the CCP, accustomed to mere verbal posturing, in a state of alarm. Xi has already lost Venezuela's Maduro and now Iran's Khamenei, both major petroleum sources for the CCP. The disappearance of these two old friends deals a heavy blow to Xi's attempts to control the global oil supply chain. Chen believes that after the pro-China forces in oil-exporting Venezuela and Iran are uprooted by Trump, the CCP will likely bind itself even tighter to Russia. Currently, the Strait of Hormuz is tense amid the flames of war, with oil tankers steering clear. This strait is vital, handling about 1/4 of global oil transport, and China imports roughly 13.4% of its seaborne crude from Iran. Supply disruptions could exacerbate China's already sluggish real estate market and consumer spending. Beyond Middle East turmoil, the CCP faces escalating conflicts in surrounding regions, such as the recent intensification between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and growing tensions with Japan. The CCP won't focus long-term on the Iran issue. John Calabresi, a senior scholar at the Washington-based Middle East Institute, noted that the increasingly close military cooperation between Russia and North Korea narrows the CCP's maneuvering room, heightening risks of escalation on the Korean peninsula. Beijing's inability to fully control the situation adds another layer of concern. During the Biden administration's neglect of the Middle East, Xi sought to elevate the CCP's influence there, including facilitating Iran's entry into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS to challenge the US. Trump's actions effectively reassert US strength in the Middle East. However, during the 12-day US-Israel war against Iran last June, the CCP's support for Iran was, as now, limited to verbal posturing and wolf warrior gestures, strong words without substance. Yun Sun, director of the China program at the Washington-based Stimson Center, noted that with Trump's visit to China looming, the CCP won't confront the US over supporting Iran. The US operations, codenamed Epic Fury and Roaring Lion, employed a decapitation style of core strikes aimed at thoroughly eradicating the source of Middle East chaos. Song Guocheng, a senior researcher at Taiwan's National Chengchi University International Relations Research Center and an expert on China issues and international strategy, pointed out that Trump's military action against Iran has overturned the CCP's red strategic map. Since the announcement of the Trump-Xi meeting, the CCP has attempted to exploit Trump's transactional personality with a bold deception strategy, positioning the Taiwan issue as a form of bargaining chip to lure Trump into accepting a broader deal encompassing economic and geopolitical interests, a grand bargain, in exchange for U.S. concessions on Taiwan. This military action demonstrates that Trump needs no deals with anyone. He requires no negotiating chips, but pursues straightforward realism through strength. The transaction theory has always been a bad idea, peddled by CCP-aligned scholars to Xi, akin to the flattery of communism by Taiwan's Wu Sangui figures. In the past, China often tried to use assistance in resolving the Iran nuclear issue, or stabilizing Middle East energy, as chips to gain US concessions on Taiwan. For this Trump-Xi meeting, Xi might have planned to repeat the tactic, but to Trump, the negotiating table is inferior to the USS Ford, and chips are no match for Tomahawk missiles. This action not only destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities, but also demolished the Zhongnanhai negotiating script, overturning the CCP's strategy to deceive Trump and proving that Taiwan neither needs nor can be traded. The CCP might have anticipated that the US would get bogged down in Middle East warfare, easing pressure on the Indo-Pacific and creating space for advancing a Taiwan deal under the Trump-Xi meeting. Instead, the US-Israel joint operation adopted an efficient daylight decapitation and rapid nuclear elimination mode, with Trump simultaneously calling on the Iranian people to take over their own regime. This proves the US military can complete devastating strikes in minimal time without falling into prolonged occupation traps. Over the past decade, the CCP's Middle East layout has worn the mask of a peace angel while actually fostering an anti-Western proxy system. Now, oil agreements are voided, investments wasted, leaving only the task of cleaning up the strategic ruins in the Middle East. The CCP originally thought the US would be distracted by Middle East quagmires. But the result is that the collapse of the CCP's evil proxies has instead diverted the CCP's own Taiwan Strait focus. The CCP believed it could foster proxy regimes in the Middle East. Now, it's the US fostering an Israeli proxy regime there. These facts prove that the CCP's foolish, wishful thinking, treating others as fools too, has turned into a death curse. A doomsday atmosphere envelops the Year of the Horse 2 sessions. The CCP's 2 sessions in the Year of the Horse are overshadowed by Iran and Middle East flames of war evoking a doomsday aura. The 2026 CCP 2 sessions will convene in Beijing on March 4th and 5 respectively. 2026 marks the start of the CCP's so-called 15th five-year plan, and the CCP desperately hopes this year's sessions will project an air of victory. The CCP is pouring resources into AI models and humanoid robots, aiming to leverage so-called technological breakthroughs into industrial strength. Reuters reported that AI models were first mentioned last year, and embodied intelligence, the technology driving humanoid robots, has become a focal point. The AI model released last year by Chinese startup DeepSeek exploded in popularity online, with expectations that the company will launch its next-generation model in the coming days. Peter Easton, managing director of Beijing-based Ankarui Consulting, said the initial shock has passed, and now everyone is waiting to see what China can roll out next. This year's National People's Congress will review the draft outline of the CCP's 15th five-year plan. This five-year economic blueprint is expected to further emphasize embodied intelligence. CCP state broadcaster CCTV featured Chinese-made humanoid robots performing dances and martial arts on its Spring Festival gala. However, CCP regulators have warned that among over 150 domestic humanoid robot developers, product differentiation is insufficient. Analysts predict a brutal elimination round for these 150 firms. A January report from the US research firm Rhodium Group noted that China's emerging industries will still fail to generate sufficient investment in the coming years to support 5% GDP growth, meaning Beijing will continue relying on exports to bolster the economy. Beyond economics, personnel changes are also a key focus of this year's sessions. The US think tank Asia Society pointed out that while major personnel announcements are uncommon during the two sessions, attendance patterns can reveal officials in political trouble. Unexplained absences of NPC delegates or CPPCC members might indicate disciplinary investigations, though they could also stem from illness or scheduling conflicts. The CCP military delegation may see a noticeable reduction in numbers this year. On January 24th, the CCP Defense Ministry announced that Central Military Commission Vice Chairman Zhang Yuxia, a Politburo member, and Central Military Commission member and Joint Staff Department Chief of Staff Liu Zhenli are under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. Just before the sessions, on February 25th, the CCP National People's Congress Standing Committee issued a bulletin announcing that former Central Military Commission Vice Chairman He Weidong, former Deputy Director of the Central Military Commission Political Work Department He Hongjun, former Minister of the Central Military Commission Training Management Department Wang Peng, former Secretary of the Central Military Commission Political and Legal Committee Wang Renhua, and former Political Commissar of the Armed Police Force Zhang Hongbing, 5 individuals were stripped of their NPC delegate qualifications between October and December 2025 due to suspected serious violations of discipline and law. On February 26, the CCP National People's Congress Standing Committee announced the dismissal of 19 delegates from the 14th National People's Congress, including 9 PLA generals: former Navy Commander Shen Jinlong, former Navy Political Commissar Qin Shengxiang, former Air Force Political Commissar Yu Zhongfu, former Army Commander Li Qiaoming, former Information Support Force Political Commissar Li Wei, 5 admirals generals, plus 1 lieutenant general and 3 major generals. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section, and we'll see you next time.